I want to present to you some ideas, and then you can just tell me what you think.
Sure.
And then we'll start from there.
That sounds great.
So have you heard that like young dudes aren't dating for the most part? Like they're not hooking up, they're virgins.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, before we even go anything, why do you think that is?
I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with dating apps, and women having more options now.
So I'll explain this idea, and I guess you agree.
Yeah.
But we did a segment on this before, so just bear with me if you've already seen it. Basically, before dating apps and social media, a college-age woman or high school, whatever age, is their dating pool is limited. I say college is probably a better idea.
Yeah.
Right? It's probably a better example. Their dating pool is limited to the other college students of the same age and around their peers. But with Tinder, now they can message a 30-year-old guy who lives 5-10 miles away and who has a car. So when this woman swipes right on a 20-year-old college dude and a 30-year-old career guy, she thinks they're both attractive, messages both of them. The 30-year-old guy says, I can pick you up in my Honda Civic and we can go to the lake or go see a movie. And the college guy says, you want to hang out in my dorm with my dorm mates. Which one's she going to pick?
She's going to pick the guy who isn't in the dorm.
Right. So you agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
But would you say that's materialism, or do you think it's just?
I think it's biological.
Explain. What do you mean?
Like women are driven to find a mate, whether or not you like it or not. Like we're driven to be like, okay, who can support us? And men are driven to be like, okay, well, who's going to give us healthy children? These are biological impulses that we have. So a woman whose options are a guy with no job, drinks all the time, parties, like it's age appropriate. You should be doing that stuff. But, she had, that was her pool. And now she has men who have jobs and money and houses and are ready to do that, to be who she is biologically driven to want to be. And so she's going to choose that unless she's wanting to party to like the dorm guy and not ready to settle down.
Because there's some, so I think there's a mix between biological and social.
Yep.
I don't think it's purely one or the other. I think typically you'll find from like the feminists, it's all social constructs.
Yes.
But there was a study I just talked about earlier on one of my other channels that when a woman gets a promotion, she is more likely to get divorced. If a man gets a promotion, there's no change.
Do you think she gets divorced by like her saying, I want to get divorced now because I can support myself? Or is it the man saying, I can't live with you being more successful?
I think it's both.
That's interesting.
Well, so my opinion is, I think typically, not always, a woman wants a man who is of higher status than they are.
Yep.
Somebody who's capable, strong, confident, that they can look up to and know if, like, you can rely on yourself as a woman, and then you have this powerful benefit in this strong man who's also providing you like a safety net, I guess.
Yeah.
And then men want to feel like protectors.
Yes.
So you flip the dynamic. If the woman gets a promotion, now the man feels inadequate.
It's almost emasculation.
Yeah. And so I know that it's funny. You'll see a lot of feminists will say something like, oh, boo-hoo, the poor man. It's like, it doesn't matter what you think about it. It matters that men feel this way and they'll leave.
Yep.
And so then you literally, with this promotion, you end up with women now feeling like their man isn't sufficient because they're higher. He's not providing them any safety at all. And then the man feeling like they're not protecting anybody.
Yep.
So, I mean, you agree, I guess?
Yeah, I agree with that. I completely agree.
So what do you think the future is going to hold then? If we keep, and this is Sweden, by the way, where this study was done, like one of the most egalitarian societies.
Yep.
So here's what we're seeing. We're seeing low birth rates.
Yep.
People aren't getting married anymore. They actually, and now we have with like the Me Too movement, there is a backlash. Dating has become a lot harder.
Yes.
Men are behaving differently. What's the future then going to be?
I mean, if you want to look at the way that we kind of look at social media at this point, like, oh, if you're not finding it, find another site. Maybe there needs to be like a site made for the 20-year-olds that aren't getting girlfriends looking for it. So maybe there's a group of women who aren't getting boyfriends that, like aren't feminists, but something like that. So maybe make an alternate site for these men and try to do it.
I just don't think that's going to work
way.
though. I think if a 20-year-old woman can choose, even a 25-year-old guy who's got a car and a job,
she's gonna.
Yeah. And so then what happens is those young men who are in college aren't forming relationships, aren't seeing any incentive to better themselves, to become a provider or a protector.
So that's why they become feminists instead.
Well, no, the predators do.
Ugh. Yeah.
Right, because but yeah, a lot of them are probably so desperate they'll say, "I'll just say whatever you want."
Yeah.
But then women don't like that.
Yeah.
Well, I'll ask you. We'll make it a little personal.
Sure.
Would you like a male feminist guy who just fawns over you and does whatever you say?
I would hate that.
Well, there you go.
Uh-huh.
And then what ends up happening is these guys who are like white knights, neckbeard, whatever.
Yeah.
I know I'm being a little harsh, but let's just say these guys, then after a year of doing what the movies told them to do, are shocked to find you are not attracted to them. Mm-hmm. And so then what happens?
Then I don't know, they could get angry.
Get handsy.
Yeah, get handsy.
And then get called out, and then we reset the clock.
Yep.
Yeah, so I want to be very delicate here. Otherwise, all the feminists in the world are going to come and try and bite my head off. But I've seen a lot of rhetoric that women want egalitarian relationships. They want to be with equal partners.
Yeah.
But then everything we actually see is not the case. It's not the case. How do you feel about this? Do you think overwhelmingly women biologically want stronger, assertive men?
Yes, because I think your impulses biologically outweigh your social construct. I think it's nature versus nurture, and nature wins in the long run, no matter how much you try to.
That was one of the studies that I was reading the other day as well, that you have all these feminists in San Francisco when asked said, "Oh, I want an equal relationship," and then when they're like, how do you date? And they're like, "Oh, well, when I date, it's traditional gender roles."
Yes.
So what's the future then? Men aren't hooking up. Yeah. They're not dating.
It's bleak. I mean, we almost need to hit a reset button on everything.
I kind of feel like the apocalypse is going to be slow and boring, and this is one of the ways it comes about. Yeah. You've got a generation now that are of men that are being stunted because of all of the things we've just talked about.
Yep.
You've got an increasingly, this increasing push, right? There was a tweet from Progressive, the insurance company. We need to encourage more women to be CEOs. But if we look at that other data that says that as women get promotions, they're more likely to get divorced. I think what we end up seeing is as women make more and more money, they're less likely to be attracted to the average guy. More women are in school in the United States today than men.
Yep.
So it seems like if the income averages for a college degree versus a high school degree are true, we're going to end up with a generation of women who view almost all men as inadequate. And then you're going to have a bunch of men their age who never had a relationship at all and are going to be stunted, basement-dwelling neckbeards. Seems pretty bad.
What happens when they turn 30, do you think? And then they move into the role of the people who stole the eligible women from them?
No, they have no experience with women.
So they'll just move into the basements instead of into the role.
Right.
Yeah.
So like for me, I'm a couple weeks away from being 34. But I grew up at a time I was coming of age when these social media platforms were being built. So I exploited all of them.
Yes.
I had a very normal teenage years and 20s and everything, dating, hooking up, partying, all the good stuff. And I skateboarded all the time, and I was arrogant, cocky, just awful person, all that. And the ladies loved it. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I mean, they kind of did. And now I'm in my 30s, and I can go on dating apps and be like, oh yeah, yep, you got it. And then these other guys who are like 26 have no experience because guys like me have dominated the dating apps for the entire time.
Yep.
So when they're 30, they've never dated before.
And they might, if they've tried a dating app and it didn't work, they're probably not going to want to go back on it when they're 30 to try again.
But dating apps are awful anyway. Like
I've never tried one.
Well, it's like for women, it's just you just sit there and you get inundated with messages from literally everyone. And then guys go in and message literally everyone.
Yep.
It's become awful. So I've basically walked away from it, just like, ugh, it's trash. But there was a period where it was like, I don't know if you've seen the Family Guy episode where Quagmire discovers Tinder. And
yes.
And he's like hunched over and he's like, swiping.
like a troll. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Gollum from Lord of the Rings. So there was a period where it was glorious, and then everyone just got on board with it. Yep. Everyone uses it, and now it's just a waste. But I'm kind of envisioning this future now where I think one of the main driving factors for what makes someone successful and responsible is pair bonding, mating, a reason to live, to grow. At least it used to be. And now I'm like...
I mean, there is hope because a lot of people outgrow that the social justice aspect that's kind of aiding in stunting all these men, like the women who are super social justice. So eventually they're going to be like, okay, like I'm ready to settle down now.
You know what I failed to factor in with this hypothesis? These 30-year-old guys who were, stepped over because of Tinder and stuff.
Yeah.
There are going to be 20-year-old women who aren't going to go for 40-year-old guys.
Yes.
I mean, they actually might, though. Some of them.
Some.
But then you're going to have weird women as a result.
Yeah.
You're going to have 30-year-old guys who live in their parents' basement, and you're going to have the next generation below them even worse. Unless it skips over and, like, Generation Z or whatever becomes more manly in response. I don't know.
I see a lot of women that are, a little, like, late 30s and stuff that never settled down, kind of got so far into hookup culture and then just...
Yikes.
Oh, crap. Like,
that's millennials.
Did I miss my shot? Yeah.
Man, millennials. They're in for a world of hurt. Yeah. I think especially millennial women.
Yeah.
Because there was a couple stories that I was reading a while ago. This one got me in a lot of trouble. 30-year-old career women are having trouble finding men.
I remember.
Yeah.
I remember the
It
trouble.
was so much fun.
Yeah.
It was trouble. I do air quotes because I was laughing the whole time. It was awesome. I'm like, look at all these tweets. It was hilarious. The feminists are so mad. And I'm like, what are you mad at me for? This is the story. This is the day. I didn't make it up. And like, I'm pretty tepid. I'm not like trying to be mean. But yeah, these 30-year-old women are realizing.
Well, they take facts as endorsements. You
right,
can't
of course.
say a fact without being an endorsement.
It's certainly coming from my opinion that I read this. But yeah, they're starting to have a rude awakening. That they're 30 and 30-year-old men are going for 20-year-olds.
Yep.
But like that was always the case,
Yeah, they always like younger women and younger women like older men.
Yeah, there was a video by these two comedians, and it was like they're singing, and it's two women.
Yep.
And they're singing about like being 29 and how like everything's great and life is good. And then she's like, and now I'm turning 30. And then she just starts screaming, everyone's gone. What's happening? Where are all the men? Yeah, that's going to happen.
Yes.
So what's the future then? Are we going to sit in like pods and go to virtual reality and just never date and make up fake people to hook up with on like The Sims?
I think we're in for a divided nation. And I don't know if it's going to be a civil war or if it's going to be a secession. Like I can't tell you, but
Really?
there are two very
dating?
different in general. I mean, this goes into the dating.
Right.
There are just two very different types of people in this
Yeah.
world. There are right now in America, there are the people who pour milk on themselves at Bernie Sanders rallies.
Fake blood.
Yeah. And then there's the people who just want to settle down, make a life, stay home with their kids.
But I think that's most people.
Yeah, a lot of people are like that.
You know what actually?
There's like radical and then there's moderate.
No, I actually think I started thinking this. The problems we're talking about are city problems. They're not rural problems.
So rural people,
like if you live outside of a big city, if you're in a rural area and you don't go to one of these big universities or state universities and you work a trade, you've got your community.
That's true.
Your community is going to keep doing its thing. Now, economics could play a big role in that because a lot of these towns are falling apart.
Yeah.
But if with Trump's bolstering of the economy, then the cities are the ones in trouble where these weird dating things are happening and the women they're having cats. They're buying a bunch of cats and then they're like, and I mean it literally.
Yeah.
Like I know cat lady was meant to be like an exaggeration. And it's not anymore.
It's not.
Look on Instagram, man. It's like there are a bunch of feminist writers. I kid you not, cat accounts. It's like,
people ask me why I won't start an account for my cat Figaro, and well, this might have something to do with it.
You don't want to be a cat lady.
He can share my account.
It's like small animals are replacing the dopamine release you got from having babies.
Yes.
So now we've just replaced, eunuch animals instead of children.
Yep.
But it's mostly big cities.
Yeah.
You look at rural areas, they're still having bigger families.
Yep.
In fact, there was research done in the 2000s that conservatives were having more kids and liberals weren't.
Yeah.
Today, it's reflected in the Generation Z being slightly more conservative.
Yeah.
So if this trend remains true, I think the population will kind of go down. You're going to end up with a bunch of urban and suburban, weirdo guys and women.
And a lot of it was the me culture, because that was like people wanted to extend their childhoods instead of, growing up, getting a job. And it was just a generation of, millennial, late millennial, slightly early Gen Z. I guess it's like the 90s. The 90s babies kind of for them. Not to offend any 90s babies. You guys know what you are. But yeah, and so it was a generation like that kind of decided, well, I can't have babies if I want to extend my childhood. So then that came down to, I can't possibly have babies because of climate change. You know?
Right, which is nonsense.
No, of course.
But I do think it's crazy that I'm about to be 34 and I have no family. Because my dad had 2 kids by the time he was 27.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, you know what the problem is, though? It's definitely not me.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's everybody else.
Yeah.
So, like, when it comes to the women that I've been in relationships with,
Mm-hmm.
So one relationship I was in was a woman had a career.
Uh-huh.
And so we never saw each other. And she's like, I'm not giving up my career. I'm like, well, I'm certainly not.
Yeah.
And then some other women are like, I want to go adventure and do my thing. And I'm like, I'm all about freedom and liberty, so you do your thing, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And the only option I really have is to be like, no, you must be the wife. And I'm like, that's not me.
Yep, exactly.
So I haven't found.
So you got to find somebody who wants to, start a family and be maybe a stay-at-home mother.
But here's the challenge with that.
Mm-hmm.
My perspective, personality, what I find attractive, are all based on liberal urban sensibilities.
Yep.
And so most of the women in that space are going to be fiercely independent careerists and not necessarily compatible.
Mm-hmm.
So, over the past several years, I've been, increasingly successful. I have no problem and no concerns about starting a family whenever I need to.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the women that, I have been with are like, can't career.
Yep.
And so there have been some who are like nearly 40.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like,
yeah, it's getting up there a little bit.
it's no offense. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, like,
40-year-old women are lovely. Okay.
well, it's the issue isn't them being 40. It's the difference in my age to their age and where I am in my life. And the same is true with younger women too. So I could certainly find like a younger woman who's like, I just want to, and I'm like, but we're just
And
not.
there's biology that comes into play too there. If you're looking to start a family and she's already in her 40s, then there could be some trouble and that could be hard and that might not fit your what you want in your life.
Yep.
And that's entirely true. That's biology. And I say this, I'm in my 30s. I'm getting there. So, it's understandable and it's okay.
I think we're doomed. Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We're live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want to catch the full recorded podcast, which doesn't appear in these clips, make sure you join by clicking the button down below, become a member, and then go to the community tab of this YouTube channel, and you can see all of our full episodes. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you want to get more clips like this. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you all in the next show.